Louisiana, St. Ambrose, Independence, and the Iowa Select side. And then he represented the Midwest Rugby Union at the first USA capping ceremony. And Earl, like I said, is somebody who, if I have a question about some administrative thing, I usually call Earl, and I just know that when I call him, it's going to be about a 20-minute conversation. And he usually gives me the answer in the first minute. And then we just bullshit about everything else after that. So anyway, Earl, I wanted to say thank you and congratulate you on your time and your dedication to Iowa. Earl said, "Oh, I don't get to talk?" No. Next up is a guy a lot of you guys have, depending on your age, you've seen him stand and yell on the sidelines. When I played against him and I heard him stand and yell on the sidelines. So Craig Scott, if you could come up.
You stole my opening remarks. Because anybody that's seen rugby in Iowa in the last 20-some years knows Craig on the sidelines. I'm Bill Hosey. I started playing for River City in '91. That's when I first met Craig. And Craig did his own bio here, so I'm just going to kind of read off what he has. His chronological age is 65, in rugby years over 100. He started playing rugby at 24 as an original founding member of River City Rugby Club in 1972. He's one of our original 17 players. River City played 4 games that year, lost them all. And they scored 1 try for the season. Craig played yeah, we improved a little bit, yeah. Played club side for 25 years, and in recent years has been playing old boys rugby. He coached River City Rugby for over 30 years. Played approximately 600 club side matches, over 100 tournament matches, 60 all-Iowa matches, and 50 old boys matches to date. Attended all 40 of the Iowa Rugby, all Iowa tournaments in a row, probably an unofficial record, unless someone wants to try and beat that one. He's played rugby on 3 continents, make it 4 next year when we go to Argentina for our next World Golden Oldies Tour. He's attended 3 Rugby World Cups. He's played on rugby on 6 overseas rugby tours. He's been a tour manager on at least 9 old boys or club side tours to England, France, and Australia. He played 1 select side game against Ohio. Attended 3 Mid-America Cups as a player and a coach. He's played in 6 World Golden Oldie Rugby Festivals and 1 Vintage Rugby Festival. Greg was appointed a player selector and assistant Iowa team manager for 3 years. Worst game played. Against Iowa State, it was 35 degrees, the wind was 25 miles an hour, and 2 inches of rain. Most memorable game. Scored a 40-yard try against Milwaukee. Also winning the All-Iowa tournament was one of his most memorable occasions. Best player Craig says he's played against was Cecil Youngblood, if any of you older guys know him. Greatest rugby personality, player, fan, enthusiast, and supporter was Reggie Tate. Tries scored, not that many. And has drank approximately 5,000 beers at rugby events.
And Craig, actually, the very first overseas tour I went on, we went to Wales, and Craig went, and if you've ever tried to get, well, I deal with women now, but if you've ever tried to get 42 guys to listen to you and do things, it was incredible that we actually pulled it off and no one died. Next up, I remember this guy for, I don't know for how many years he did it, but he played with a glove, 1 glove on. And we kind of joked and said he was the Michael Jackson of Iowa rugby. And he was always talking, always talking. Bill Farnham, will you come up here, please? And then Scott, come up.
if anybody knows Bill and Craig, they know that Craig was standing on the sidelines yelling at Bill while he was officiating a Mason City match, probably. But
Every single one.
it's a real honor to be up here and to get to talk about Bill a little bit. And I think it's really a fitting honor that Bill is part of this first class of Hall of Famers, because Bill really represents the epitome of what it's all about to be an Iowa rugby player. He didn't just have a career that was in his own club where he showed up and he practiced and he played and so forth. Bill has contributed to Iowa rugby since the day he stepped on the pitch back in 1988. I think you can, some of you, well, just a few of you, may remember that Bill was the publisher of the Gopher College annual brochure that was in great demand by players all over the country, all over the state, and it was a fabulous it was a fabulous brochure. There are only a few that have a complete collection. Willie Craig has one of them. I'm going to put them up here so you can see what it was like before Facebook and web pages to try to document what was going on in these rugby clubs. But Bill was the publisher and archivist of Gopher College, and this is a fantastic legacy for our club. That's just where he started. He played for, you've been playing now since you were 35, and you're still playing. You're going to play this afternoon, right? Still playing. He's put it on the field every way imaginable, including with compound fractures of the ankle, a dangling thumb, and a rolled up bicep. So I mean, there's just nothing Bill hasn't sacrificed for Iowa rugby. I think most importantly, though, and one of the things I'm really proud of Bill for doing is he stepped up later on and got involved in refereeing. And I think there's a number of you here today that know that Bill has been teaching and mentoring you as a referee on the pitch for a number of years now and helping you lift your game to a higher level too. And I think he really deserves some credit for that. I think it's a fitting honor that he's in the Hall of Fame this year with you. And I'd ask you to give him 3 cheers. Hip, hip! Hooray! Hip, hip! Hooray! Hip, hip! Hooray! Bill! Well, okay. I'll leave the books up here for a little bit. Don't take them away, but feel free to have a look at them. They're beautiful.
So next up is someone who, for me, when I first started coaching the women's rugby team at UNI in '94, we didn't have any money, and this was a guy who literally refereed games for us for free and had a whole lot of fun with us along the way as well. And he's somebody when I think of Iowa rugby, even when I go other places, they're like, "Oh, you know that guy? You know, yeah, I know that guy." So Len Watkins, will you come up here, please?
We might need a chair for Lynn, because when Steve handed me this that Lynn had given me, I said, "This is a long obituary. It's not a bio." But I took a few things out of it, but I left most of it in because I think it reads like a story, and most of us that know Lynn probably don't even know most of this information. So bear with me. Gordon Leonard Watkins was born January 16th, 1941. To Gordon and Hillary Watkins in Maugan, Cornwall. Mogan, Cornwall. During a bombing raid on the nearby fledgling RAF, I was delivered into the world by my grandmother Jenkin, who was deaf and totally unaware of the air raid sirens. During my childhood, I was brought up in North Cornwall, where soccer reigned, and in 1956, at age 15, went to technical college in Redruth, where it was a hotbed for rugby. I was in class with several of my peers and ended up playing for Cornwall countryside and even England. Down there, rugby was a religion, and you had to be born in Cornwall to play for Cornwall. In 1960, he was accepted as a student to Sir John Cass College, and at that college, everyone was encouraged to play a sport. Wednesday afternoons were free of classes to encourage students to go out and blow off steam. I was attracted to rugby, and it had an added benefit of a great third half social life. Indeed, I have the lasting memory from this period of delivering the president of our college to his home and being requested by his wife to take him directly upstairs to his bedroom. How we loved our rugby widows. During my second year, I ended up with my first broken leg, discovering this only after riding my bicycle home 10 miles after the game. I'd often wondered if the third half had something bearing here. In October of 1962, I joined the pharmaceutical manufacturing company May and Baker Limited as a chemistry research assistant. M&B had 3 rugby teams at the time I arrived. This meant we had a large number of employees who had played rugby at university level. I quickly moved up the ranks to play for the first team, recognized as one of the best in Essex. As though this wasn't sufficient to satisfy my thirst for rugby, I also played for a Sunday side on a completely other side of London called the Ants. The Ants was a combined side made up of several company teams in the London area. The Ants were from the workers. This club was very competitive and highly regarded in the Sunday circles. The club was a large Irish contingent of both sides from the border, and we sang many Irish songs. Indeed, we made an LP recording called The Irish Sings, but this is another story. My years at M&B Rugby were some of the best. We had phenomenal camaraderie and a great social life that went along hand in hand. Here I learned a lot of rugby songs that I've tried to hand down over the years. In 1974, I left M&B for the University of Southern California, lived in Santa Monica, close to the beach. I was fortunate to live in the Santa Monica since it had one of the best teams in USA Rugby resident just down the street. However, at age 35, I was aware that I would not be able to perform at my level at Santa Monica. Then a few years later, we relocated to Burbank, and by serendipity moved next door to Nolan Day, the captain of Eagle Rock Pasadena rugby team. Some may remember him when he moved to Chicago area and coached for the Northwest Foresters. He persuaded me to take up a whistle. I rose through the ranks and very rapidly was often thrown to the dogs in the annual bloodbath between Santa Barbara Grunions and Bakersfield. I remember well reffing the famous USA center Kevin Higgins at UCLA, and I recall pulling him aside and telling him there was something just a little strange about his tackling that didn't appear to be right, and he should refrain from doing what we now call spiking. Our great friend Paul Emmerich tried this in the World Cup and got thrown out against England. During this foray in Southern California, I made many new and lifelong friendships, most of them, like the All-Iowa, from the 60-team Santa Barbara Festival. In Easter of '86, I moved to Ann Arbor, where I immediately assimilated into the rugby community. My second week there, I got thrown into the dogs as well. No one warned me it was the annual bloodbath, again between the Detroit Tradesmen and Windsor Boarders. I had been sent like a lamb to slaughter. Undeterred, they sent him again. Then he continued and played for the Detroit Old Guys Select Side. In his last game for the Dogs, the Detroit Old Guys Select Side, was in Toronto, where he managed to have a compression fracture of his wrist, trying to haul down a rather large knee up running forward. This leads me to my final memory of Michigan rugby and a segue into Iowa rugby. The Big Ten tournament was being held at Michigan State in East Lansing, and the Saturday it rained all day, and Sunday it got very cold and snowed. I'm sure there are still a number of old U of I guys who remember me reffing in a parka with my arm in a sling. I became so cold that I did not thaw out until I reached Ann Arbor. Now to Iowa in 1989. Soon after I arrived in Iowa City, I took some of the duties from Willie Craig that he'd been doing for several years for Iowa rugby referees. This provided some respite for Willie, and it got me involved here. I've been involved in reffing, assigning refs, training refs for the past 24 years. I'm an IRB qualified to coach referees. I plan on spending the rest of my rugby career coaching referees and trying to increase the number we have. It has been a pleasure to have been associated with the growth of Iowa rugby. I've continued to play old guys rugby since arriving in Iowa, played with Quad City Escargot Express, and joined them for the Golden Oldies in Dublin. Oh, what a colorful event, puts the Olympics to shame. I feel very honored and humbled to have been selected to be among the inaugural group of inductees of the Iowa Rugby